The Seance of Blake Manor is the second best thing I've played in 2025, and it's really close to being number one. I've played some pretty good games this year too. The classic Batman Arkham Asylum, the beloved Hades, the also beloved but I can't lie, I kind of hated it, Split Fiction. For me, the Seance of Blake Manor has rooted a love inside me for a genre I've never played before. It's a formative experience that will breed new paths of game discovery and stand steadfast at the height of them. It is to detective games what my first Xenoblade 2 experience is to JRPGs, where I'd go on to play classic games from the Final Fantasy series, the Tales series, the Ni no Kuni series. It is what my first Mario Galaxy experience is to 3D platformers, where I'd go on to play the other 3D Mario games, Banjo-Kazooie, Astro Bot. It is that first experience of a genre that I've now fallen in love with. The gates opened to detective classics like The Return of the Obra Dinn and the Golden Idol games. Generationally good games, but perhaps never to be adored as much as that first experience. The Seance of Blake Manor is a game that I will be reminiscing about every time I play a new detective game, remembering its world, the characters, the atmosphere, until eventually I come back and play it all again. Okay, while my overall message on the game feels quite clear, my thoughts behind it actually feel a bit messy, because there's just so much to talk about with this game. This review took a lot longer than my reviews normally take to write because it's just hard for me to describe why I love a game when I love it this much. The Seance of Blake Manor has really struck a chord with me, and I kept putting off writing different sections of this script because my thoughts are so difficult to put into words, and that makes it quite difficult for me to write a coherent review. If I make any arguments or talk about things and I'm not making much sense, it's because writing this has been quite confusing for me. I should hopefully be all clear though, so we'll start with the synopsis. The Seance of Blake Manor is a detective game set in rural Ireland at the end of the 19th century. Your character is Mr. Ward, a detective who's been sent a lot of money to investigate the disappearance of one of the guests at Blake Manor, a hotel where a seance is soon to be held. The guest who's gone missing is a woman called Evelyn Dean, and the mystery of the game is finding out what happened to her. You have no idea who out of the 24 staff and guests hired you though, so you'll have to do a lot of sneaking around and undercover investigation, and there are a lot of mystery to figure out while exploring the manor. Your stay at the mansion covers 2 days, with the wait until the seance building up until eventually taking place at the end of the second day. Before that, you'll have to manage how to spend your time on an hourly basis to try and solve every mystery before the seance. You'll always be able to see the time of day at the top of the screen. Time moves forward when interacting with most objects in the mansion and when discussing things with the people there. Not everything you decide to look at will advance time, but everything important will. You'll be inspecting a lot of things to try to give yourself clues and information about people and their actions, but it's alright because you get a lot of resources to help you along your way. There's a list of every person who's at the manor where you can see facts about them and facts about the kidnapper that you've learned so far, so you can cross-reference those and eliminate people you don't think is the culprit. From that screen, you can click on any character to see their profile. Each character in the game has a branching mystery tied to them. I don't even want to give the tiniest of spoilers here, but a lot of your time in the manor is spent investigating characters like side quests separate from the main mysteries. Each time you find something that relates to them or gives you a clue about why they might be at the manor for the seance, it gets added to their tree where you can view all the evidence that you have on them. Eventually, with enough digging and using your brain, you'll be able to do what the game calls forming a hypothesis, where you piece together what they want and then confront them about it. These mysteries run parallel to the main one and are all worth doing because they feel as important as the main investigations you have. You get to see deeper into each character, and in a lot of cases a character's mystery is closely tied to another's. It's hard to categorize these character mysteries because I was playing as if they're mandatory. You get given way too much time to finish the main mysteries, so you're always simultaneously doing character mysteries by getting their thoughts on things you find or snooping around their hotel room. These mysteries are not mandatory, but you do have to do a little snooping to figure out basic facts about each person so you can cross-reference with the culprit's profile. Like finding a pair of shoes so you can see if they're the same size as tracks you find from the culprit at some point in the story. There's another reason for doing them though, which does make them feel extremely important, but it would be somewhat of a spoiler to say. You do get told what that reason is immediately after you do the first introductory character mysteries, and it makes each character feel really important, so you end up aiming to do all their mysteries anyway. Now, the manor itself is a legendary environment. As I've been writing this, I've genuinely been missing being there. It's up there with my favourite places in gaming now. Blake Manor is a huge space that you can't help but love being in. There is a lot you can talk about when it comes to how special this place is, and I think if I described everything, we would be here for a very long time. I'm hoping that at some point in the future, someone decides to make a whole video essay on the intricacies of this place, because there are just too many things that make this place iconic. I could probably trace the layout of this place in my head if I wanted to. It feels like you're exploring these calls for a lifetime, and the game's not short either, right? It takes about 20 hours to finish if you're not sprinting for the main mystery. My point is that you spend a lot of time here, and I came to quite dearly love it. The layout is sprawling and is more interconnected than the most talked about Dark Souls levels. You have various areas in the manor grounds with a huge hedge maze at the back, shared spaces like the library, the bar, and the drawing room, a hotel room along several different corridors for each separate guest. There's a lot more than that. During the day, you'll always be running around this place with a goal of what you want to check out next. And there's no fast travel, which is a really good thing, I think, because even though I did always sigh a little moving from the back of the hedge maze to some far off area in the manor, the place feels extremely real and grounded because there's literally, well, maybe not grounded, it's a bit supernatural there, but there's literally no way to rush through it. The Seance of Blake Manor also delves quite deep into Irish folklore and the supernatural, and the manor does a great job of accommodating that. The ambience both in and out of the manor is sublime. While you're indoors, the only thing you hear are your footsteps and the utterly absorbing ambient soundtrack, which makes the manor extremely intimidating, especially towards the start of the game where you're not really sure what's going on. The thing is, I have so many feelings towards the music and how creepy it is walking around the manor, but not many coherent thoughts. I haven't been so entranced by something that feels so unsettling before, so saying it's creepy feels like I'm underselling this place a lot. The threat of the kidnapper and what's going on in the background of this manor looms over you the whole time and makes exploring this place just so grim. You do encounter some ghosts as you move around the place for the first time. This one in the intro made me piss myself and really set the tone of the manor nicely. I was barely looking at it through, so I didn't even fully see it, which made it even scarier. The whole place feels off in a way which is almost Lovecraftian, as the game builds on this idea of entities beyond the human self, gods of the old times, and the mythos of ancient Ireland. A few of the characters are quite versed on ancient traditions and figures, and so talking about this stuff with them makes the manor feel even more mysterious. And until you start figuring out who the culprit actually is, their identity is a very large presence in your mind. Who is it? What have they done? How does this relate to the haunted spirits of the manor in ancient mythology? I think presence is the right word here. Unsettling presence. It's always there in the music, in the halls, in the books you read, and the secrets and clues you uncover, in the way the characters just stare at you like there's life there, but also death. They look so regular, but so unnatural. It's such a treat to absorb this place, sneaking into people's rooms, finding hidden doors, stealing keys, wondering what incomprehensible things you just don't yet know, but feeling the weight of them inside your soul. Alright, let's talk about characters now. There's a lot of them, so there's no room for a deeply written tale for all of them, but they all feel like real, likable people. You can't have 24 different profound and interesting narratives, but you can have 24 unique and interesting mysteries, compelling enough to where you want to figure out what their deal is. I wanted to dig deeper into Mr. Varley, the strange hotel manager and the first person you meet, Miss Murphy, the hard-done-by housekeeper, Miss Darcy, the woman with a knowing smile plastered on her face. There's some really interesting stuff here as you question them about things you found in their room or ask them about other people. For some, you might enjoy figuring out how to solve the mysteries more than the mysteries themselves, but I think instead that speaks to how fun it is to solve the unknown in this game. I think as well, for the most part, the amount of guidance the game gives you is great. If you click on pretty much anyone in the list of people, it'll push you in the direction you need to go, like telling you to investigate a person's room a bit more, or question them about different things, or go chase a lead you have with a piece of their luggage in the luggage room. You do have to do a lot of thinking yourself, trust me, you can't just follow instructions. But the hints are there and are mostly useful, making you feel like you're always one step away from the next big unraveling. The main mysteries are good too. They get split up over the 2 days at the manor and often take a bit longer than the character mysteries as you explore areas and interrogate people. There's a really nice dynamic between solving the engaging cases of the people and the foreboding cases of Evelyn Dean's disappearance, and it helps that the place you're in is absorbing as it is. Again, I might have just said a bunch of things that do interest you in the game. I may have made it sound really uninteresting. It's easier to feel these mysteries than talk about them. These words don't mean much if you haven't been there yourself, sucked up into the headspace of the halls of this place. Part of the reason I find it so hard to get my thoughts out on this game is that I actually got pretty frustrated with it towards the end. There are a couple negatives here that I'm about to talk about, but it's so strange because I don't really care. Like, my emotions were real, I wanted to kick something, but I'm so overwhelmed with love for this thing that it just doesn't really register for me. In my head, these gripes are way overshadowed by good things, but I still should let you know that there are things I didn't enjoy. Firstly, we're going to talk about my closing hours of the game. At this point, I had solved quite a lot of character mysteries, but clearly didn't optimize my time enough to solve every single one. The main mysteries are a different story, those were all clear. I was just waiting for the end of the game for most of the second day while clearing up extra character mysteries, so do not worry about not having the mystery of the manor solved. There is no optimization needed for that. But on a blind playthrough with 0 guides out, I was gonna miss out on a couple character ones if I carried on. However, I had been playing this game pretty intensively and was becoming very frustrated with some of these character mysteries. One of them was telling me to try doing 3 things which I had done repeatedly and none of them ever got me anywhere. Another was giving me 0 guidance, but there was an uninvestigated section of her tree pointing towards using a key to unlock a room relating to another character's mystery late into the game. But when I got there, it said that there was nothing in the room and that I needed more information. I then removed the requirement of profiling the first person I mentioned, which was one of the 3 goals. Not by profiling her though, but by finding an out-of-the-way letter in a desk and then the game removing the fact that I need to profile her. I had gone crazy for ages because there was just nothing to ask her about to reveal information, and I didn't know what information I lacked for the mystery of the other 2, so those were done for. And I was so tired by the end of the game that a few others, like the loose command of find components for another person and diagnose someone after trying everything I could think of, like talking to the doctor and reading every book in the library, just didn't seem like fun goals to finish. All of these are very solvable, but after playing this game quite intensively and going back and forth tugging on every little string I could think of for hours, I did time skip the last 2 hours of the game to get the ending. There were moments in this game where I felt a little frustrated and hopeless, and having solved the rest of the mysteries and knowing who the culprit was, along with most of the other characters, I decided to cut my losses on the 100% run and confront the culprit. I'm not sure what your experience will be like since I was religiously playing this game for 2 days, so it's very likely I missed something obvious, but a few of these mysteries felt a bit too convoluted for me to want to finish them, especially when I was already so close to the end of the game and running about the place with no success became a bit of a chore. That might all sound pretty bad, but again, I've kind of separated it from my experience. I had no idea what to do, yes, but there were so many others that I solved, and it was almost like I'd been possessed by the manor itself, the way my love for it eclipsed the little frustration at the end. The thing that I would say is more so going to be the general experience and not just my own is the way the culprit is handled in the finale. No spoilers, okay, none at all. I'm spoiling nothing here, since saying anything about anyone is going to take that experience from you. So in the loosest possible terms, I was disappointed by the culprit. The final section of the game is great, don't get me wrong, but the culprit revelation was not great. Not great. I don't know if I chose the wrong actions in the final confrontation. I don't think I did, because I did unlock and choose the secret ending. But I'm not kidding. I did not even speak to the culprit at the end. I did not ask them anything, talk to them about anything. They did say things, sure, but not to me. Mr. Ward, your main character, felt like he wasn't even there. The culprit did not acknowledge that I was there, or that as the detective, I'd figured everything out. And what's more, while every single mystery was fairly hidden until the end, the identity of the culprit is just remarkably simple to figure out. And that is all I can say, because if I say why, it'll be a spoiler. It just becomes obvious way too soon, and the feeling of overarching dread from this mysterious villain gets lost way too early as you begin to figure out who it must be. But I'll stop there. It was still a fun process overall, and the number of extremely interesting things you had to figure out in the main missions that were not the identity of the culprit were enough to keep me in love with this game. A review like this is hard to make when the most coherent thoughts that you have are ones that aren't the positive ones. But love is hard to describe, while hate isn't. I want the takeaway from this review to be the feeling that you get while playing the Seance of Blake Manor is indescribable. It's joy, it's dread, it's the feeling of being unsettled in the unknown, surrounded by people you know are hiding things, and a manor full of strange spaces with a history of tragic things. I think this game is one of the best things to come out in the whole of the 2020s so far. I am urging you to play it, please play it, it was incredible.